Hello and welcome to another episode of the Elemental Companion podcast. As always, I am your host, Heather, and today we're here talking to Ashley. So Ashley, hi. How are you doing? What are you wanting to talk about?
Hello! Oh my gosh, I'm seriously so incredibly excited to be here. Guys, my jam is all about email marketing, and I'm seriously so incredibly excited to talk to Heather specifically today about that, because I know she is the automation wizard of all the things. So I'm so incredibly excited to put our two brains together and see what comes out of this conversation for you guys.
And we're back. Yay! Yeah, it's great to have you on. I'm actually really excited as well. And email marketing, especially just now, is particularly relevant because it doesn't really go out of style, right? So what's your take on how this works? What's your process here?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so guys, the biggest thing for me along with email marketing is, for me, it's really about amplifying relationships and sales. And the best way that you can do that is to simplify your process that you go through within email marketing. So often we get very overwhelmed. And that was the way I was, honestly. When I first started off with email marketing, I was so incredibly overwhelmed with sequences and tags and segments and this and that. And my brain just literally exploded. And I was like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to begin. I don't know what email I need to write first. How do I maintain this? Like, it was so overly complicated in terms with all these things that you quote unquote need. And for me, I like to kind of go through the process of simplifying it down to just the pieces that actually make the difference of taking somebody from opt-in to offer.
Fair enough. Now, actually, you might appreciate this then. I was very resistant to writing any sort of newsletter for the longest time, right? I wrote one years ago, and then I was like, I'm not doing that again. Horrible. So I had one, but I wasn't really using it. And then about a month and a half ago, it finally occurred to me that all of the newsletters I actually read do not have these fancy templates that they use. What was I trying to use with mine? A fancy template. Yeah. So, I added one and one together and took away the fancy template, and now they're going out consistently because I like them a lot more. But
100%.
Yeah, there's things like that where if you simplify it, you might find that you're more willing to do it. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah, totally. And guys, when it comes to templates as well too, templates actually impact your deliverability. There is a reason why these big gurus and these big top of the line essentially only send out plain text emails. It's because they get the best deliverability. They're more personal. They don't feel salesy. And they beat through the bush. I mean, for a lot of times, again, like I was like you, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have these fancy graphics and these fancy colors and this fancy text and all these things. And it took me so much time to put it together. And that's why I had so much resistance to doing email marketing, especially when I first started. And when I went through that process of simplifying it, just doing these plain text emails, like I have a cute little thing. Sometimes I'll include like a cute little graphic for my signature, and that's totally cool. You can add your logo up at the top, but guys, keeping it simple makes a huge difference, especially for the user on the other side as they're reading your email as well too.
Oh God, yeah. And for me, I think it was more that it just felt so clinical when I was trying to use these templates as well. And do you know what I likened it to? It was the difference between doing a sort of e-commerce style type thing, because they're always templated to the nth degree, versus just showing up like anyone else in your email would show up and saying, hi, we're here. So.
Yeah. And not only that, but it's also a trigger within their mind, right? It's like when you're going through your email and you click on something and you're just like, oh, it looks just like that Target ad I was looking at 10 minutes ago in my own personal apps. So when you start to go through this process of differentiating yourself and really kind of coming up more so as an email that you would get from your friend or from a client, that looks completely different. Like my clients definitely don't make templates for their emails to send to me. It's just plain text. So it breaks through that kind of social barrier within their mind of like, oh my gosh, okay, I can put my guard down. Like this, they're not trying to sell to me, even if you are selling as part of serving. But at that point too, you're just focusing on getting to the message and just emphasizing that piece of it instead of all the glitz and the glam.
Oh God, contact you. And it makes such a difference because do you not
Mm-hmm.
find you're way more likely to just hit reply on one that's plain text than you are to one that has this big horrible template on it? Even that they're horrible, they can be very pretty, but there's that extra step removed from you as like a connection, I suppose.
100%, totally. And I guess the next piece of this as well too is like when you simplify how your emails look, you also simplify how you write them as well too. So a lot of times people get stuck, and I even get stuck in this bubble sometimes, where it's like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to say. Like I feel kind of like in that writer block kind of zone. And so a lot of times what I recommend is two different things. So if you're writing social content, you already got half an email going right there. Like, especially if you really focus on using belief shifting as a way to be able to talk to your ideal clients on social media, you could use that as a cornerstone of bringing that into your email. So you're not double doing it, right? You know, not everybody sees your posts on social, so you can go over and repurpose it. The other thing that you can do as well is you can ask yourself, what is it that my ideal client needs to hear from me right now? You know, whether it's like, man, my ideal client is in a moment of hustle, or she's in a moment of struggling, whatever that is. Maybe it's a dose of encouragement. Maybe it's, man, they could really use this tip right now in terms of how they can shave off 5 hours from their work week, or, you know, whatever it is that they really need right now. I want you to write towards that because it's going to feel a lot more genuine. It's going to make you come through and make you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm speaking right to their like pain point, and they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, you're speaking right into my pain point. You're like stealing thoughts from my diary or the text conversation I had with my best friend last night. So when you link those two pieces together, it makes a huge difference because you're simplifying how your emails look and you're simplifying how you talk to your people as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I've noticed a lot is if you're not using your templates, you're not boxing yourself into certain categories of what you can say as well. So like, even if it's not directly related to your business, if you know that they need to hear something of a sort, you can just more easily say it.
100%. And it makes a huge difference because they're not just getting the same recycled thing, right? Like a lot of times with newsletters, what people get wrong is they're constantly sending a blog post, a podcast, a link to something on Amazon that they like, and people get bored of that, right? Like I want to know the nitty gritty of like what's going on behind the scenes of your business. Like I want to get to know. And those kinds of newsletters are so impersonal that they are so easily sent to spam or trash because people don't care about that stuff. I don't want you to add to my to-do list in terms of like, I need to read this blog post. I need to do this podcast. Like, I mean, I get enough of that already when I'm trying, like I'm consuming on Facebook, or I'm consuming my own content that I, you know, specifically focus on, like for my mentors, like I just do their content. So I don't want more to my to-do list. I want actual like human being connection that is more so like I'm sitting with you over coffee as opposed to, again, you adding to my to-do list.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay then, what's your view on RSS Roundup newsletters?
Okay. So I understand why people do them. I have set these up for people in the past, and it's been something that is a really good way to automate a connection point, right? And sending that out. If you are going to do an RSS feed, blog post thing, or podcast, you need to include something personal above it. Like the thing is that so often we just send it out with a little kind of snippet blurb thingy that doesn't really make any sense, that maybe gets cut off, you know, it ggets cut off half a word, and it's so impersonal. So if you're going to do it, I would much rather you go through the process of writing out a little blurb in terms of with like, hey, I just wrote this post, it's on XYZ, here's why you need to read it. And then that way it's more so like, I'm thinking of you, not just being like, I'm just going to send this to all 800 people on my email list. Like focus on that personal connection of like, hey, this is why you should read it. Maybe you can also include like, here's the 3 key takeaways you're definitely going to want to check out. Like if you do like a list article, for an example, like my 5 favorite tips, you're gonna be like, you want to check out list or tip number 3. Tip number 3 is going to change your game when it comes to whatever it may be. So things like that make a huge difference where they're like, oh, I definitely need to know what tip number 3 is. Like, what are they talking about? As opposed to just being like, here's the thing. I've seen that making that switch makes a huge difference in terms of with open rate, which obviously helps across the board with the rest of your campaigns. And then also click rate as well too, because people are way more interested in clicking on that than just like a random generated thing that they're just like, okay, you haven't convinced me as to why I need to open this.
Fair. I don't disagree. I'm just sort of feeling mildly sheepish because my current setup, the way I do it, is at the start of the week, I will sit and write something in real time and it will go out. They're usually quite long. It's helpful. And then on Saturdays, because I do a lot of blog posts and things in the week, I do have an RSS that goes out on Saturdays. Just off it goes, which I could maybe put a little more effort into. But there's so much I write during the week, to be fair.
Totally. Yeah. So I would definitely challenge you in terms of with like, especially with that specifically, because the thing is that when people are given multiple choices in terms of with what they are wanting to do, people usually pick none. I'll give you an example. So about a month ago, I accidentally double booked myself for 2 different events. They were both free. One was a training and one was a networking event. And I was sitting here and I was like, oh my gosh, that usually never happens. Like, I'm very careful with my calendar and I didn't know how that happened. And I was like, gosh, I don't know which one I should go to. And I literally sat for like 10 minutes debating which one I should go to. Should I go to this training? Should I go to this networking event? And I'm not even joking. Like, truth be told, I went to neither. I got to 15 minutes and I was like, Ashley, no, like we're not even going to do this. We're just gonna walk away. Like, you don't have to make that decision. And so we are constantly making decisions throughout the day. And especially, you know, I'm a mom to a 2-year-old, so I'm constantly making decisions in terms of with like, what snack should I give? Oh, should we do juice, milk, or water? Like the little things, and then it's like the business, and then the husband, and like all this stuff going on, right? So the biggest thing is that if we can make it super easy for the subscriber to take action towards something, and even if you just highlighted your main post, like if you're like, this was my rock style, like put all the fire and all the gold into this post, highlight that one. And then make sure to be like, hey, if you love this, I also wrote 2 other posts this week as well too. Here's the link, and you can like link the title, so that way they're like, this is the fire one. This is where I know I need to go. And then after they consume that, if they like, you know, scroll down to the PS and they're like, oh my gosh, I just can't get enough of Heather. Like, I think she's awesome. Then they're going to go to the next one or another one. And obviously, I'm sure you already know about like linking together and like, you know, creating a breadcrumb trail, all of that beautiful stuff. But that's where you can really start to do that within email marketing. We want to make it super, super simple for people to open the email and know exactly what you want them to do with it.
Fair. Okay. Fair enough. I will go and fix it probably. Honestly, it was one of those things that, and I'm sure people can relate to this actually, I just threw up because I didn't want to keep having to do it in the main newsletter because that was getting really tedious and boring for me. And I mean, if it's boring for me, it's going to be boring for them as well. So I thought, we'll put it over here and then I don't have to think about it ever again. Yay, but no.
Yeah. And the thing is that also too, I would definitely encourage you with those Saturday ones, especially with your other ones as well too. I think you said you send them out on Mondays. Is that right? Your
Mondays
other one?
or Tuesdays.
Yeah, focus on trying to repurpose that as well too. So the little blurb that you talk about in your email, throw that on social. Get some fire on that blog post over on social. You know, bring that whole all the way around into a nurture sequence. You can put together a nurture sequence as well where people will come on through that sequence. And, you know, because the thing is that Sally Sue, who joins your email list today, she ain't going to get that email because it was sent out at noon this morning. So like, you know, focus on like, there's so many ways that you can use your blog posts to really amplify them and bring them to a whole other level with email marketing specifically.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. For the people in the back corner over here listening to this, the reason I am quite so disorganized with it in this business is because I had killer writer's block for months and months. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing something. And now, especially in the last month or so, it's been like, I'll do all the things right now, all of them, because I'm having a great time, right? But it does mean that I need to be a bit more purposeful about how I share it, because there's suddenly an awful lot more to share. Like, whereas before, you might have, you know, one or two a month or one a week or what have you, it's now not unusual for me to have multiple pieces every day. And it's just like,
yes.
I'm going to exhaust people. Oh, well.
Hey, no, it's good. And I think the biggest thing that my mentor really nails into me is intention and focus make the biggest difference. So with everything that I do in my business, I really focus on having a singular intention on why I'm doing a particular thing. So I send out an email every Tuesday at 3 p.m. And with all of those, I'm like, what is my intention? Like, what is, and this might also help too, like as you're writing your emails, I think about, okay, so what is it that I want them to take away? Like, what is a key takeaway that if someone was like, I read this is what I took away. What is that key CTA, that call to action that I want them to take? And then I also think about as well too, is like, how does this serve me in the process as well? In terms of with maybe I'm releasing something and I'm sharing it with my audience, which was an email that I sent today. Or also too, it's like, man, like I learned this on a training that I watched and I'm now shedding that to my audience so that way they can then take that and bless other people with that same advice. So I mean, for me, email marketing is just about shedding and really just sharing that light and being able to really just focus on, you know, being that kind of simplified email marketing podcast light to the world. So that way people know that like, this is what it's all about. And this is how you can really cut through the fluff to be able to get to what you want to do.
Yeah, no doubt. So you just mentioned your newsletter. Do you have a link that you would like to share with people for?
Yeah. 100%. Okay, so basically, I have a community. It's a free Facebook group. It's called Email Marketing Simplified. And so if you join the community, it will ask you for your email address, and I'll send you guys over my tagging for profit guide specifically, which is where I teach you how you can use tags in your email marketing to be able to generate more profit in your business by being able to see, you know, who's on your email list and not necessarily just having like a whole bunch of people and not knowing who they are, where they're going, what offer they need to go to. Like it connects the pieces for you. So it makes it so much easier. And you can integrate it into any platform. So you don't have to use a specific platform to do this. And so if you guys want to hop on over to the community, I would love, love, love to have you. You can just go to ashleydeluca.com/community.
Yeah. And guys, I will put the link down below because you absolutely do want this. The quiz I run on my site, obviously I have it segmented now. I didn't for like the first little while, but I now do. And it means that I can then speak to people directly about their result for the rest of ever. I cannot emphasize how much of a difference this makes and how much easier it is to come up with content.
Yep. It makes a huge difference. And that's why also too, when it comes to tagging specifically, is that it's not just tagging. Like I have clients, I'll just back up for a second. So I have clients who tag every single action. They're like, they clicked this link, they did this, they opened this email. And I was like, but what does that mean? Like, can you correlate those actions with where you want them to go? Because everything needs to link back to your offer, right? It's a simple fact of like, every single subscriber that I receive, I want them to know, are they an ideal client or are they not an ideal client? If they're an ideal client, which offer do they align with? So that way I can send them targeted emails specifically towards that. And so it makes a huge difference when you guys really focus on tagging very intentionally. So that way you guys can really use those to their superpower.
Well, yeah, because it's like analytics. I mean, you can get all the data in the world, but if you don't know how to draw a line from that to what you're trying to do, it's useless to you. Exactly.
100%. You get it.
Yep. Yeah, I have exactly 6 tags. That's enough for me, actually. Yeah. It gives me 1 for each type of elemental. And from that, you know, I know who these people are. It's fine. Yes. I know where they're meant to go, what they're meant to do. And yeah, that's probably the most I'll need for the moment. I'm sure that as I add more things, I will have more later. But it doesn't have to be complicated. And I know that at the beginning, tags can sound really daunting. And I know this because, yes, they were. And I am was a developer. They were still daunting for me. So I can only imagine. But they can be really simple too.
Exactly. Sometimes more is less, right? And so that's why also I really focus on just keep what you need and ditch the rest. Just focus on what you have going on right now, right in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, we can move on to our elemental companion quiz then. Are you ready?
I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. I'm a little scared. If we're being totally honest.
It's fine. It's not that scary. There are no wrong answers. Let's put it that way.
Whew, that's good. Okay.
And you can ramble as much as you like. Honestly, rambling good. But yeah, I've had to take this multiple times. It's fine. It's horrible, terrible, awful questions, but they're fun.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
Cool. Question 1 then. When you're procrastinating about selling or moving your business forward, what is the voice in your head saying to you?
Oh boy. Okay. So first instinction, because I could definitely go all the way around the merry-go-round with this one. Okay. So my first instinction is a lot of times it goes into oh my gosh. Okay. So what does this actually look like in terms of with being able to actually complete it? A lot of times I get really so much into my head about, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to go. And then it's like fuzzy in between. So I get really caught up. I'm so good at knowing what I want. And a lot of times when it comes to selling, I'm very good at, okay, this person is perfect for my offer. Like I know they're an ideal client, but then there's a disconnect in terms of with like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to say the right thing. And then it goes into, okay, so what does that look like? And then like figuring, like I get very overwhelmed in all the details. I'm not a super big detail person, which is a little surprising because I do email marketing and there are some very fine details to that. But yeah, the details are what get me caught up into that. And then just that fear of failure. A lot of times, it can be, especially since business for me is personal, right? It's, my work, and I've been working on separating that. It also comes into the work side as well, and really focusing on just being like, Ashley, like what you do does not equal your worth. Like the results that you create do not equal your worth. Like you are always going to be worthy in your moment and like what you do. And that's something that I've been really working on as well, is like really embracing that worthiness despite the results that I'm creating. Because I'm an Enneagram 3. I am super duper driven, motivated, success. Yeah. So for me, that's what it's all about. Like I look at success as the things that I create, the results that I create, the people that I meet, like the social status behind it. And that's my disconnect, essentially, if that makes sense.
It kind of does. I'm not a 3, I'm an 8, but for a while,
my gosh, you know.
See, and for a while I misidentified as a 4. So like, there was a bit of that too, but no. Enneagram 8 over here. So I hear you. I get it.
Oh my gosh. My husband and my best friend, whose name is Ashley too, they are both 8s. Yeah,
it's funny because like one of my close friends, her husband is an 8. And we like to joke that she basically married the same person twice because there have been times where we've been like on a video call like this and she's had her headphones in and he's been in the room and she'll say something. And then I'll comment on it and he'll comment on it and it'll be the same comment.
Seriously. Yes. There are times where I'll be like, I'll voice message Ashley. We Voxed her a lot. And I'll be like, please help me understand my husband because I don't. And I know you will, because I'm just like, why does he do this particular little thing? And she's like, it's an Enneagram 8 thing. We do this because da 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 da. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally just can't.
Right? It's funny how that can play out.
Yes, 100%.
To look back around, now that we've had our little into Enneagram things, would you say that tell me a bit more about some of the wording the voice uses, in particular when it's getting fuzzy? Is it pulling in from the worth stuff, or is it literally just that we have so many things to aim at? What even is logic?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely the worth thing in terms, especially as it comes to scaling my business and charging higher for my packages. It's definitely the worthy side of things in terms of with, like, are you sure you can do that? There's probably somebody else out there that can like do it way better than you. Or I guess another way of kind of phrasing it as I'm like thinking through it, it's just, what if I let them down? Like, I am such a big service person in terms of with like my heart, and I want to be genuine in everything that I do. I want the best for my clients in every step that I take with them. And so my biggest thing that usually it comes up even after I book the client is I'm like, I don't want to fail you. My biggest fear is failing my husband and like being a failure. Like, it's so interesting because as I was like thinking about it, I was like, yeah, but like, Ashley, like, have you like looked at what you've accomplished? Like, like you're not a failure. Like, you have a house over your head. Like, you know, there's different things that like I'm just like so unimaginably grateful for. But it really definitely comes back to that voice of like, okay, but what if you fail? But what if you fail? What if you fail? That is like the primary voice. But what if? What if?
What if you're wrong and this time is the time it crashes and burns?
Exactly. What if you make the wrong move? Yeah, because I guess I guess my biggest fear is like, I don't want to let my kid down. Like, I don't want to let my 2-year-old down. So when I think of that and I think about the moves that I'm making in my business, it's like, okay, like, I don't want to let Nick down. Like, I would like be terrified to like let him down. And I was like, Ashley, he's 2. He doesn't understand yet. You're okay.
Yeah, you've got time before they start to really understand what's going on.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good. Fair enough. So next question then is basically when you're feeling that sort of stuck and you're questioning your worth and things are a bit fuzzy, how do you resolve that so you can keep moving?
Okay. So I would say in terms of with resolving it, in the past, I'll tell you what I do now. Now. So, because I could go like on and on about how I used to do it. But anyway, so right now what I do is I sit in it in the moment. One of the things that I've learned is to focus on kind of sitting and feeling that feeling for a moment of like, okay, yeah, like what does it feel to fail in terms of with whatever situation or client or process, project, whatever. What does that feel like? And I sit in that and I feel it. But then I'm like, you know what though? I haven't failed. Like, I haven't gone through that. Like, it's like a lot of times it's just like a belief that I have that hasn't even happened. And so a lot of times I believe the belief and then I make it true. And I'm just like, no, like we're going to stop it right here. Like, we're not going to let it go any further than just the simple fact that I thought it. I'm going to take it. And I heard this on a podcast the other day and I love it. And I've been doing this is where I'm like, I'm just going to crumble it up and like, I'm going to take that belief, crumble it up in a ball and throw it mentally away. Like, nope, this is no more. This is not part of my life. I'm not embracing that. I'm not letting that in and just focusing simply on this is what this needs to look like and putting that through a different belief.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good way of dealing with it. But yeah. Cool. Okay. Funnily enough, I actually do know what your companion is, but I'm going to talk through the process of getting to there first. And then that way, if I am actually off base, you can be like, hey, no, it's this thing. It's fine. So
perfect.
What I reckon is happening, you actually have 2 that are niggling at you a little bit. Your fire elemental is getting a little bit overwhelmed with all the different choices and details and process and stuff. That's fine. That's over here to one side. But probably the bigger problem just now is to do with your worth and your sense of self and your ability to be like, hey, this is who I am and it is enough. We are great. I don't need anyone else to tell me that. And that's largely to do with your dark elemental. So when they are happy and working well, what they will tell you is, look, it doesn't matter what's going on out in the rest of the world here. This is who I am. This is what I believe. Come at me, bro. Basically, it's the element of come at me, bro. When they're a little unhappy, they're the voice that's kind of like, are we good enough to do this? Is this something that is within our wheelhouse? I'm pretty sure someone else does it better. What would this person, that person, and random Joe Blogs over there think about what I'm doing? You know, it's that kind of thing where you're looking for more external input to tell you that, hey, actually, you deserve to be where you are. So
yes,
that's that one, which would mean then that your elemental companion would be your light elemental. Now, the way that they work is they form naturally into pairs, right? Where one is strong and unhappy, there's another one that is a bit quieter and usually a bit more cheerful. You have your heavier, unhappy dark elemental here. Your lighter, somewhat happier light elemental over here. And if we can listen to this one a bit more, they do tend to rebalance somewhat, and then that can clear things up quite nicely. So what your light elemental would say to you if it could is, hey, hang on. Obviously you're worth it, because look at this bit of evidence over here. Look at this amazing result you got over here. Look at your surroundings. Look at your accolades. Look at the people that love you and support you. We've got this, and also, come on, let's just go do some more things and make some more proof. Be fine. Let's go create something. Get moving. Go, go, go. Pom-poms. You know?
Yeah.
Very much where they're coming from. But I will tell you what your fire elemental would need to hear as well, because it's significant enough that I can see it, but it's not your immediate concern. So I'll just tell you while we're here. Fire and water, they form together to make your main motivation and momentum pair, right? This is where a lot of the results get generated. Like, to put it in really simplistic terms, earth and air, which you're fine with, by the way, they tend to form like the actual structure of what you're doing. Water and fire tend to form the progress and the seeing things actually start to happen. And then your light and dark is very much how you feel about it. So that's where they come from. But your fire, probably what you need is to pick a smaller amount of goals. Like, because usually when they're kicking off is because you're focusing on a lot of things all at the same time. Now that can be goals or that can be details, but they normally go hand in hand. So if you can focus on a smaller amount of them and then take teeny tiny steps towards it. The analogy I use for that is it's like building an actual fire, right? You start with kindling, which is like quite light and airy and insubstantial, whatever, but it's inside the structure that you want to catch light, right? So you know, you do some smaller actions just to get it going. And then your entire job is to then keep it going, whether that's small actions or the bigger actions you can then take because it's in movement. Your only job is just keep it moving, and then you'll be fine. The other thing that might be helpful to you there is, you know, your water elemental, which is the opposite. That's your main meaning for why you're doing things. So it's your big picture, which I know you probably like if you're not a detailed person. Your water, if you're listening to it, is like, here's where the small action fits into the bigger action, and then the bigger action fits into the entirety of what you're doing, and the entirety of what you're doing fits into the smaller action as well. So it's really good for joined up thinking, basically, which again helps with the less goals part.
That makes so much sense. I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's probably something for you in that part too, but if I'm giving you one elemental companion, it'll be your light one.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely 100% resonate with that.
Yay. Cool. It's always, do you know, I've done enough of these now that you would think that I wouldn't be worried about not knowing someone's elemental anymore. But I am just like internally waiting for the day where I say what it is, then they go, that doesn't sound like me at all. I go, never happened, but you know, we're waiting.
Hey, it works. If not, you're just like, okay, take two. We're going to do take two.
Yep. Where did I lose you is probably where we'll go with that. But no, that's good. I'm glad that we at least found it. In terms of how that will play out for you then is, you know, you'll probably find, do you have trouble starting tasks or is it keeping them going?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's starting because once I get into something, I can carry the momentum.
Gotcha. Cool. So for your light elemental will probably help there then is with just this gentle reminder every time you're starting something and going, oh, but I don't know if, I'm really the right person to be doing it, is just to be like, hey, you are the person that's doing it. No one else is going to do it. And your track record for these things is great. And just let it point out to you all the places you've succeeded. I think you've already started to do that in some ways. That'll help a ton. And the work you're already doing with balling up those beliefs and tossing them is also excellent, by the way. Keep doing that. But if you do need that little bit extra, then that's the direction I would take it. Just allow it to love on you until you.
Perfect. I love that. I think that makes so much sense for me. Thank you. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I am glad that it fits. But yeah, that's where we are for yours then.
Awesome. Gosh, I think it's so incredibly cool because you said there's 6 of them, and it's so interesting how like you can still have your own piece of that puzzle so effortlessly. I love it.
Yeah, and the thing with all 6 of them, right, is I like to say that I'm discovering it more than inventing it, because like the more time I get to play with it, the more theory I have behind it, and then I meet people and they bear it out and it's great. But everybody has all 6, and they will interact with each other in different ways. Like, I mean, the way yours are working just now, especially with both your fire and your dark a little unhappy with you, is like they're sort of joining up together. And oh god, I've not told you what the symbology is at all, have I? Dark elementals look like a little moon, the light elementals a little sun. I have images for these. Anyway, fire elemental is just a little flame. But when they work together, I tend to think of them as being a bit smothering, because you've got like the darkness, and so you can't really see, right? That's sort of, it's almost like smoke, but that would require a little bit of air as well, and I'm not willing to speak to that right now because I don't know well. But it's like the sort of cloying smoke, sweaty that goes on underneath, and they sort of form up together to be like, well, we don't know what the hell we're doing. Why are we trying to do this thing? We're not very good at it anyway, so why bother? Let's just lie here and die then. Where they can go if they're getting really dark. But conversely, for that to be happening, you also need to have your water and your light elemental teamed up together. So if you can picture that, that's a little water droplet, and that's the sun. So you have a literal rainbow over there saying, hey, no, there's meaning in this. You're good at stuff. Look at it. Look at all these pretty things we've done over here.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's just, I find it really fun when they do interact that way.
Yeah, totally, definitely. Yeah, it's just kind of like its own, kind of like an ecosystem, because each thing plays off of each other.
Yeah, they do. And that can be a good thing, or it can be a horrible, horrible thing, but it's entertaining.
100%.
Yeah. So anyway, to wrap this up, light elemental, definitely. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we pull this to a close?
Oh my gosh, guys, seriously, at the end of the day, I think if I had to leave you with one thing, is just focus on sending out that email. A lot of us get really stuck in that phase of just like, I don't have to say, or I don't have anything to say. Just focus on sending out that one email. Just press send. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just practice it, do the things, learn from it, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely agree. 100%. All right. So guys, I will put the links for Ashley in the description down below. Absolutely check her stuff out, and do pick up that PDF on tagging, because it's going to be really amazing for you. Definitely do that. As always, the link to the quiz is in the description down below, and you can find that at salesrpg.com. Until next time, I will see you later.